Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, as well as some other indexes and indicators to see if we can create an educated guess as to one, when the next cycle top might be. None of us truly know. And two, what are some possible price areas that we may be looking for when we get another cycle top? Are we going to get something like a 4-year cycle or a double top? Who knows? But we're going to look into it. Let's start off with some fear and greed. And as you guys can see here, when I came back from that little vacation I had, I was telling you guys we are in extreme fear, and those tend to be good times to buy. And then just yesterday, Bitcoin, altcoins started to rip up. So we went from extreme fear all the way up into greed in a matter of under 48 hours. So pretty incredible. The other thing that I liked seeing on the fear and greed index is that overall, we haven't made any of these extreme bottoms in extreme fear. We had this dip right here, which was when Bitcoin did the double top here and here. I'll show you that on the rainbow chart, this double top. But in between then, Bitcoin had over a 50% drawdown. And that is why we had this dip into extreme fear. Of course, we had the FTX crash and sell off, Bitcoin getting down to 15K. You can see here, March 2020, you guys all know what was happening then. Back here was after we had the big sell-off, and I'll show you that on the chart here. So after we had the big sell-off from the 2017 peak, we were in extreme fear. Here, of course, COVID, the over 50% sell-off, and right here. So overall, on the fear and greed index, I do like how we are in this big uptrend. We have this large base here. What I want to watch for next to see is, are we going to be creating somewhat of a minor downtrend? If greed only peaks up to somewhere around here and we start reversing trends, then maybe we're going to get one more flush. Something to keep in mind, guys, is that, there's this expression, sell in May, go away. People talk about that a lot when in reality, if you look over the past few years, the big dips tend to come somewhere later in the year, like August, September, October. You can see here that was 2023, late 22, September, October, right there, October 21, and then 2020. Yeah, we had a little bit of a dip. I know we had that big sell off there, but we have this narrative, sell may go away, when the last, I don't know how many years, but really I was going back and it seemed like most years since the year 2000, we have been going down. Later in the year, we also have the election later this year, 4 months away. And so that might lead to an increase in volatility. One way you guys can track volatility, you have the VIX. This is the volatility index. Anytime this gets above 25 tends to be a good time to dollar cost average in and buy in. It lines up pretty well with some lows in the market. So just keep that in mind. I think this is a good indicator to have. So yeah, we'll see what happens here in fear and greed. Are we going to start pumping up in Bitcoin, getting past the former all-time highs, or maybe we have another flush or two coming? We'll see. Moving over to the alt season index, one thing I do like about this chart, well, a couple things. You can see here in 2020, 2021, we had 3 spikes when alts were running big. Alt season really played out in here. That was when alts really ran. And one way you can track this, guys, is BTC.D. This is Bitcoin dominance. And what this means, any of you guys who are new to this channel or new to crypto, and for those of you who are new, I try to make my channel for the conservative minded investor, people, not traders, but people who are trying to take the stress out of investing, finding better value times to invest their money in. Of course, you got to do your own research. There's no substitute for that. Do your own research. What I'm trying to do is help people find better value times on when to possibly put in money for investments. In crypto, there's a lot of confusion about crypto for the common person. And so I do my best to try to show you different charts to watch, try to take out some of the guesswork, some of the technical jargon, and just give you guys some sort of indication when there are better times to buy. So anyways, what Bitcoin dominance means is that right now 55% of all money that's in crypto is in Bitcoin. And when you get these large drops, and this can take about a month, right here, this is later 2017. This was March, April, early May of 21. It's about 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. That's when altcoins explode. So you've heard about Bitcoin. There are altcoins out there. If you're on Coinbase or Robinhood, you'll see altcoins like Doge, Chainlink, Avalanche, etc., SHIB. So when the money from Bitcoin rotates into the altcoins, people who are in the correct altcoins can experience major gains. Now, nothing's guaranteed. I've seen altcoins that ran really well in 2017 not do so hot in 2021. And I'm sure that's going to happen again. You get people still talking about XRP, Ripple, Cardano and Tron and some others. None of us truly know what's going to do well. There are some ways to look at charts, and I show you guys this in videos when I talk about top coins on Coinbase. What I consider to be a stronger looking chart as opposed to one where it's you could get more value out of it, but there's more risk. So I go into the other videos. Watch the Coinbase coins video I put out yesterday if you want to see what I'm talking about there. Especially when I talked about coins like, Ripple compared to Solana, how Solana has a strong chart and Ripple really doesn't right now. But do keep that in mind, is that there are new altcoins every time we get into these alt seasons, which happen right at the end of these peaks here. There was a mini alt season in here, but most of them ran here. That's when Bitcoin dominance tanked. So we're still waiting for that to happen on the Bitcoin dominance chart. It's still going up. We got these two trend lines hitting the peak and the trough, I guess you can say, of this 2020-2021 cycle. They kind of converge around this high 50 percentile. So my base case is the next cycle might peak and altcoins might peak after we hit this mark and then tank. If we do tank to the lower 40% as we've had before, who knows? Maybe it could happen over a few months. So that's something to look for on the Bitcoin rainbow chart as well. And of course, here, blockchaincenter.net, shout out, you can see they have these nice colored bands. And for those of you who've been following this channel for a while, one thing we talked about is how each halving, it goes up a band. And sure enough, that's what happened last time. Fourth halving was in this fourth green color band. And so fifth halving, if you guys are thinking very long term, fifth halving sometime around this line, you see the yellow boxes around 211,000 for Bitcoin. Could that happen? Seems crazy now. I know you guys watching this, even me, I look at that and it doesn't seem believable. But I'll tell you, having been in crypto since 2017, it didn't seem believable when Bitcoin was at around 2.5K that it would go to 20K. It didn't seem believable that it would go back down to 3.5K. It didn't seem believable that it would go up to 60, 70K, and so on and so forth. So, I do try to take my bias out of crypto because it humbles us quite a bit. We have coins like Doge that run up out of nowhere, coins that don't seem to have much use case or utility whatsoever. So, do keep that in mind when you are exploring crypto, whether it be altcoins or Bitcoin. Anything can happen. A good way to maybe have an idea of where coins can go. We'll get into this on the chart in a little bit, but pay attention to market cap. Okay, that is something a lot of other YouTubers do not talk about enough when they make these ridiculous price predictions. The largest market cap stocks in the world are at a little bit over 3 trillion. Bitcoin is at 1.2, or it's at 1,250 billion. Okay, so 1.25 trillion. Okay, let's go over. I'll show you this with the stocks. We'll show you with Nvidia. Nvidia market cap 3 trillion, 3.11 trillion. Microsoft 3.33 trillion. Apple, these are the top stocks in the world, 3.6 trillion. Okay, number one stock in the world. Amazon 2 trillion. Google 2.31 trillion. So when you're looking at possible price targets or comparisons, at best I look around that range. And something that you can do if you're good into charting, this is TradingView, by the way. This right here, it's called the Fibonacci retracement. If you drop from the prior high to the prior low, we're looking on a log scale here, and you scroll up, and you have to make sure your fib's off log. You can see some of these Fibonacci extensions, okay? And so if Bitcoin was to hit this 2618 fib extension, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying my fibs are absolutely drawn perfect. I know they're not. I haven't looked at them under a microscope underneath the smaller scales on the daily or monthly time frames. But if we were to take just 155k Bitcoin and divide it by this current number, 64 point, I'll just do 7. That would mean that Bitcoin would be 2.4 times higher. Okay, so you take 2.4 times the 1.28 trillion. That would mean, and you can double check my math here, I'm doing this on my phone calculator, that Bitcoin would have around a $3 trillion market cap. To me, that is believable. Again, we just showed you that the top stocks in the world are a touch over 3 trillion, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia. So could Bitcoin get to a $3 trillion market cap at its peak? I'm not saying stay there, but run up to a peak and then sell off, as it's done in so many cycles before. As you can see on this rainbow chart, runs up hard, sells off hard. Okay, this keeps happening over and over. Crypto still very volatile, and that's why this rainbow chart is so nice. I think that's why you guys like these videos. When you put on this logarithmic regression scale, and a log scale goes up by factors of 10, so it's better at showing a larger macroscopic view of the trend of the Bitcoin asset, that 150k being 3 trillion in market cap doesn't seem too unbelievable. Okay, so maybe that'll happen. To me, that's my guess as far as most likely what the peak will be. We have this 3618 extension at 209. Maybe that happens. Who knows? We also have the 1618 here around 100k. Could things not be as great as they have been before? Possibly. And if we look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, let's say some people are predicting the top might be around the election this year. So we'll go to November. Where would 150k fall? It'd be in this orange box, the third one from the top. You see these peaks, how when Bitcoin was even more volatile, it would run up into these heights, but as more people are getting into it, it's not going to be as volatile. And you can see here last cycle it only got up into the second reddish orange band and the orange band. So I think, conservatively speaking, at best, and I know this sounds unbelievable for those of you who are new to crypto, for those of you who've been in a while, you believe it, and you might even believe Bitcoin can go higher than 200k, and maybe it will. Who knows? But I try to temper my expectations, take my emotions out of it. A lot of people want it to go very high, but what if it doesn't? And again, if the top is November this year and it's in that orange band, that would be at the Fibonacci extension, 150k, right? If it's earlier next year in 2025, look at that, 150k. It's right at the start of the orange band. If we do get another 4-year cycle, something like you guys can see here, the top in Bitcoin here was it was in December of 2017. Here it was December 2013, so 4 years. 4 years. It did have the ultimate peak here in November of 2021, so it's 4 years, even though alt season ran here. So it depends, Are you more into Bitcoin? Are you more into the altcoins? Because the alt market ran harder here and right after the peak here in 2017 into the first week of 2018. Another 4-year cycle, by 2025, I think then it becomes more believable that Bitcoin gets to that possible 2618 Fibonacci extension. And as you can see here, that orange band, that reflects that. So even conservatively speaking, the longer it takes this cycle to get up to those prices, the more believable it'll be. 1 second, let me hydrate. So we've talked about how 3 trillion is very possible. It's within the realm of belief that Bitcoin could get up there 150K, heck, even 200K. We'll see. One thing I wanted to look at with you guys today is also show what have been the percentages of, from the dip to the ultimate top each cycle. So we'll just do general measurements here, but it's another way of showing the rainbow chart, how the rainbow chart does a great job tracking all these very volatile movements. I'm going to show you guys this here in a second. So if we measure just somewhere around the bottom to the ultimate peak, look at that percent, 40,000% gain. Okay, crazy. Let's go to the next cycle. We're going to measure just somewhere down close to the bottom. We're not trying to be perfect. Okay, now you guys can see it was 40,000 that cycle into 2017. From the very bottom to the top, it was around 7,000%. 40,000, 7,000. How about the most recent cycle when we were at 3,500 to around 69,000? Okay, 40,000, 7,000, and here 1,700. So you guys are seeing a pattern. This is what's called diminished returns. When you hear diminished returns, it's not being bearish on the overall possibilities with crypto. This is just the pattern we've seen, and this is why the rainbow chart shows us that the logarithmic regression is something to consider. So when people are saying, $1 million Bitcoin, if these percentages start to increase in our predictions, then you'll know, Bitcoin hasn't done that, and the market cap would be absolutely ridiculous. So, that's one way to tell whether some of these predictions are true or not. Let's take a look again. So we just saw, what was that, 1,700%? What would be to the very top here, the 240,000 Bitcoin would be around 1,300%. Okay. Now we've seen overall those percentages have gone down quite a bit. So here, let's go back here. I want to see what the factor is here. So again, we had 40,000. It was around 40,000. 1 second. Something I haven't tried before. We're going to do 7 divided by 40. I'm curious. So 7,000 divided by 40,000, that's about 17.5% of the overall percentage it ran up before. And so next we're going to take, I'm curious about this, 1,700 divided by 7,000. That's about 25% of the overall percentage it did before. So 17, 25, what would be next? 32%. So, if we did take 1,700 times 32, that would mean Bitcoin would run up somewhere around 500 to 600%. I hope you guys are hearing what I'm talking about here. Sorry if it sounds a little complicated, but I'm just curious on the mathematics. If Bitcoin kept with its original pattern running somewhere around 500, the lower percentiles. Now let's say it ran up even 30-ish% of what it did before. Look at that. That puts us at the 1,618, pretty close to it, which would be around 101,000. So there's one case to make that by the overall percentages that it runs up compared to each cycle, that the next pattern might be to say, at least by doing that we only go up to 100,000. That would catch a lot of people off guard. 850%, that would put us at the 2,618. So we'll see. It's interesting when when things have all played out, hindsight being 2020, where things eventually end up. But yeah, that'd be interesting if Bitcoin only got to 100,000. Man, that would catch a lot of people off guard. So, I did want to take a look at the percent move of each cycle and the next one. Something else, you guys probably noticed these. Let's get rid of this fib here. You guys have probably noticed these yellow, white, green, and red lines. You're like, okay, what the heck's all that? You see 300 days from new all-time high to peak, 484 days average from halving to next peak. Okay, the white line is every halving. Okay, every halving, I put the white line here. Okay, now every cycle up until this one, the halving came before the new cycle break of the prior all-time high. So when Bitcoin did break the prior cycle's all-time high, I put a yellow line. Okay, halving white line. Okay, break of the former all-time high, yellow line. Halving white line, break of the former all-time high. You can see it right there, yellow line. What's new this time around is the break of the prior all-time high happened back here in March, before the halving. It's the first time that ever happened. So that got me to thinking, what's the average amount of time from each of those prior halvings to the ultimate cycle peak? And if you go from the halving to the next peak, it's about 484 days. Okay, going to the rainbow chart. We're talking about this peak here, here, here. So if you go from the halving to the next peak and you average that out, halving to the next peak, halving to, we're talking about the ultimate peak, that cycle, it's about 484 days. Okay, but if you go from the new all-time high, when we break the prior one, to the next peak, that's only 300 days. And so what I did here is I put the 300-day mark average from the new all-time high. That puts us later this year. And the average from the halving to the next peak puts us in August of next year. So let's go back to the rainbow chart again. Yeah, I'm going to look at the orange box, the third one down, conservatively speaking. November of this year, December of this year, that put us in a range of 140, 180K. We'll see. August next year, that orange box, 177 to 227K. Again, these are just guesstimates. It's really, dangerous, in my opinion, to try to get too much in the prediction game. And so what I'm trying to do here is just take a look at possible ranges, possible averages, areas to be comfortable with suspecting on where Bitcoin might go, when it might get there. So, later this year, again, we talked about volatile times going into the election, how August through October can tend to be pretty rough. We'll see if that happens again. It's happened mostly since 2000. We'll see if that happens again. We have the election too, so it would not surprise me if things got more volatile by the election. Maybe things get better. We get the Q4 Christmas pump, and then we'll see. Or do we get a 4-year cycle? Comment below. Do you guys think we're going to get a 4-year cycle? Do you think we're going to get an earlier top? How high do you think Bitcoin might go? And lastly, let's go back again to the Bitcoin dominance and the Tether dominance chart. So Bitcoin dominance, okay, it is rounding off here. And as you can see, it hasn't gotten on the weekly underneath this 20 moving average. And so is it possibly getting ready to push higher? My base case, I do believe it will get there. So maybe it's got one more flush coming. Typically, when dominance goes up, altcoin prices tend to not do so great. So do watch out for that. Okay, but the Tether dominance, and let's turn off the EMAs so we can see this better. The Tether dominance, and again, Tether, what this means is that the overall percent of crypto money that's in Tether is at 4.84%. Now, the reason why this is important is it's showing that people are putting more of their money into Tether during more volatile times. They don't want all the money that they've accrued from Bitcoin running up so high to all of a sudden lose all that money. So they'll put in a safer spot like Tether, which tends to stay around the value of 1 instead of letting that drop, higher percent like Bitcoin or an altcoin might. But here, when we take a look at the Tether dominance, what you see here is when we come down to this trend line, is that tends to signal local tops. The 2017 top, the 2019 mid-cycle top. Let's go to the rainbow chart. So 2017 top, the 2019 mid-cycle top. We're going to get these next 3 tops, the top before COVID, as well as the double top there. Okay, the top before COVID, as well as a double top here. And then we just had that new all-time high. So I am wondering, with this Tether dominance, right now it is in a bullish trend. And I know it has that red dot, by the way, that is a sell signal. Okay, so maybe it comes back down. But is it going to stay in a bullish trend, or is it going to come back down to this trend line? Again, this looks kind of bullish to me. Bitcoin dominance, in my opinion, looks like it has a little bit higher to go. Okay, the alt season index chart, it hasn't taken off yet, and might it play down a little bit like it has before? We'll see. It's possible. So I do wonder if we are going to get more volatile times, or possibly one more flush sometime later this year, between August and October. It's been happening year after year. Again, doesn't mean it has to happen again, but I do wonder if that is what's going to play out. So, guys, let me know what you think. Are you following the Bitcoin rainbow chart? And if so, how high do you think Bitcoin might go? Maybe it's going to get back up into one of these red boxes. But remember what we looked at before, the decreasing overall percentages each time as it runs up. What if the top was early and it only reached 100,000, and we only got up into this yellow or even yellowish orange box? That would catch a lot of people by surprise. But the way I look at it is this. Okay, I'm going to close with this. Having money into altcoins myself, to me, it almost doesn't even matter how high Bitcoin goes. Okay, for any of you guys who own a lot of Bitcoin, I hope it goes up very high for you, and you can take a look at some possible areas to take some profits. At least get back your original investment and then some. I hope Bitcoin goes up to 200K for a lot of you guys holding Bitcoin out there. Okay, I have a good friend who owns a lot of Bitcoin, so I hope it goes up for all of you guys. But just in case it doesn't, as someone who owns altcoins, okay, maybe dominance only gets up to here, and what I really care about is dominance tanking, because when dominance tanks, that has been when altcoins can run up big. Now, have I picked the right altcoins? Who knows? We'll see. But that's something I'm watching for, because the return on investment from altcoins, it's a little more risky. We're talking about things like Chainlink, Fetch, ACH, ICP, all those, the list goes on and on. The returns can be bigger if you pick the right ones. There are a lot of altcoins, they don't do jack squat. So it is a risky play. Bitcoin is a more solid investment, overall. But that's what I'm looking for. What's going to happen with altcoins when dominance tanks the next time. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you all are having a great week, enjoying the weather. Take care. Thanks for watching.